Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. And this is our first live of 2022. So, this is about a little over a year since I've been doing these lives. So, thank you so much for joining me, for commenting, for liking these videos, just letting me know that you appreciate them and that you want them. So, I will continue doing these videos all throughout this year as well. So, I am Lilian Chukura from Lily Legal, where we help our clients get status for for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. So today, I want to talk to you about why why you should change your address with immigration when you move. Okay, I did a whole video on my YouTube page that talks about how to actually step by step change your address, right? So it's the video tells you how to change your address, but I get so many comments asking why they should change it, if it will affect their case. So today I will be addressing those questions because it is so important that you know how it could affect your case if you do not change your address and what it means to actually change your address, okay? So that's what we'll be talking about today. If you have any questions about this or anything else, you can always book a private consultation with me by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office. My office number is always on the screen, and all my contact information is in the description to this video. Okay, so I, like I said, I did a video walking you through how to change your address with USCIS. And I got so many comments on that video asking how it's going to affect their case. So let's just start from the beginning. Why should you even change your address when you file an immigration petition? Okay, so that's the first question. Is it even necessary? Well, well. When you file a petition, if you look in the instructions, it says when you move, you must, it's not a maybe. You must notify USCIS that you moved. So that's the number one reason you need to change your address is because it's required. Now let's get into the deeper question of, you know, how does it actually affect your case? So the first thing you need to know is your physical address, not your mailing address. Your physical address where you live determines one, the service center that actually handles your case. It also determines the local field office that handles your case if your case needs an interview. Okay, so those two things are really, really important. So let's say you live in New York and you filed for your spouse who's here in the US with you, and then you two decide a month after filing that you're going to move to California. So the service centers that's going to cover New York and California may be completely different. So, first, you need to go ahead and change your address on that level. Now, if you change your address, if you move after you get an interview date, you still have to change your address because wherever you physically live is the jurisdiction that determines where your interview will be held. Okay. Even though you may be able to travel from California to New York for your interview, when you get to the interview, the officer is going to ask you, what is your current address? And remember, if you've watched any of my videos on how to not mess up your immigration case, you have to be honest. Okay. And when you're honest with the officer and you tell them, I now live in California, they will most likely stop the interview and let you know that they no longer have jurisdiction. You don't want that. Okay. You want to make sure that immediately you move, you're updating that so that the right office is handling your case at all times and that doesn't cause any delays. Now, if you, for example, I live in Massachusetts, in Worcester specifically, If you are in central Massachusetts, your interview is most likely going to be at the Lawrence field office, right? So if you move from one state in central Massachusetts to another, one city in central Massachusetts to another city in central Massachusetts, the difference might not be, there might actually be no delay, but you still have to update, right? Your field office that's going to handle your interview is still going to be the same, whether you live in Auburn, Massachusetts, or now you live in Worcester, Massachusetts, right? But if you move from Worcester, Massachusetts to Boston, Massachusetts, the field office that handles your case is going to be completely different. It's no longer going to be Lawrence field office. Now it's going to be Boston field office. So if you don't update your address when you move to Boston, guess what? The Boston field office doesn't have jurisdiction to actually interview you. And that's going to cause a delay in your case if you do not change your address. So that's one of the main reasons that you need to go through the process of changing your address every single time you move, right? If you do not change your address, it could affect where your interview is and whether the office that actually gets your interview and your file can actually go through with the interview. Okay, you do not want any delays in your case, unnecessary delays, especially if it can be solved at the beginning and you don't have to wait till your interview to deal with it. Okay, and I'll give you an example. I had a couple that moved. We got the interview date, and then I found out that they moved. We had to update it. Unfortunately, we have to update the address because they moved to another state. So that's definitely not in the same jurisdiction. And because it's not in the same jurisdiction, the USCIS office had to cancel the interview and reschedule it for where they moved to. So it happens. So don't let anyone tell you that, oh, you don't have to change your address. Go ahead and change it just so you don't cause any unnecessary delays in your case. Now, the second reason that you need to update your address when you move, especially with USCIS, is that you want to make sure that you do not miss any notice from USCIS. So if you move and you don't have access to your mail, right? That's no longer your mailing address. You don't have access to get mail there. Guess what's going to happen? The mail is going to go back to USCIS, or it's just going to sit there if they deliver it. And the people that now live there didn't tell the post office that you no longer live there. The mail is just going to sit there, and USCIS is going to assume that you received the notice. So if they send you a notice for your fingerprints and you do not get that notice, therefore you miss your scheduled appointment, that's going to cause your case to be denied. Because if your case requires a biometrics notice appointment, which is to get your fingerprints done, to get your picture taken so they can do the background checks that's required in order to actually go ahead and approve your case. If you miss that appointment, USCIS is most likely going to deny your case unless you catch it before they do that and you reschedule the appointment. So, again, you want to make sure you do not miss any notice from USCIS when you move. Because if you do not have access to that mailbox anymore, you're going to miss a notice that's going to be crucial to your case and potentially lead to your case being denied. So, examples of this again: biometrics notice, interview notice. I've had people move and never got their interview notice, and they only found out they had an interview date when USCIS denied it, and they had to call to find out that their case had been denied because they never actually updated their address. They never actually got the interview notice. So it is so crucial that you go ahead and change your address with USCIS, because they literally will deny your case if you miss a notice from them. If you miss an appointment, it is going to lead to further delays in your case. And remember, we do not want delays, okay? COVID has delayed the process enough. We don't want to be the reason that it is delayed even more, okay? So what I typically do with my clients is that when it's time, when they move, they have to let me know, and I go ahead and change their address for them with every single form that we file, so that they know, so that we're updating USCIS immediately and not waiting. Okay, that's really the important thing. We want to do it as soon as possible, just so the processing can continue and not cause any delays. Now, if you, like I said before, if you're still in the same jurisdiction, it might not be, there might not be any delays, but but you still want to go ahead and change your address, okay? Because, like I said, the second thing you don't want to do is miss a notice from USCIS. It is very crucial that, especially if you don't have a lawyer on your case, so typically your lawyer will get a notice and you will get a notice, okay? But if you do not have a lawyer on your case, you definitely definitely have to change your address because of the notice that they sent you, okay? You don't want to miss any of the letters that they send you. So that the first one, the jurisdiction. You don't want to delay your case because your case is in the wrong jurisdiction because you did not update your address. The second thing is you don't want to miss any notification from USCIS because that will cause delays in your case, especially if you miss an appointment because you did not change your address, right? If you have the right address and USCIS never actually sends you the notice, or you never actually received the notice, you may have ways around it. But if you moved and you did not change your address and they send it to the right address that they have on file for you, you don't really have an argument as to how it could be USCIS's fault, right? You didn't change the address. So now it's your fault. You most likely will have to start over in your case, unless, again, it's just a biometrics interview and you catch it immediately. Okay. Now, the next question I got was why, if you have to change your address with USCIS after your case is approved. So let's say you're filing for a spouse and your spouse is not in the US. Okay. If your spouse is not in the US, that means you're starting with USCIS for the I-130, and then your case moves to the National Visa Center and then the embassy. Okay. At the National Visa Center, you have to fill out the DS-260, upload the documents, all of that. If you have your case approved by the I-130 approved by USCIS, and you already have the notice that says it's been approved, that technically means USCIS's job is done at that point. You can still go ahead and update your address with them if you want, but it's not really going to affect your case because they already approved your case. Now, if you're at the National Visa Center stage and you haven't filled out the DS-260 yet and you just moved, make sure that whatever address is on there is your current address. Okay? Always put your current address. If you move while the case is pending, go ahead and contact National Visa Center and try to update your address. Now, your spouse, when they go to the interview, will be asked where you live. Okay? Just keep that in mind, because where you live is where they most likely indicated that they will live when they come to the US. So they will ask them, where does your spouse live? Now, they should have your current address. So let's say you already have an interview date, you're not able to update the DS-260 anymore, your spouse goes to the interview, they should know your actual current address and your previous address, because the officer is going to ask them that question, right? So let's say I'm the officer and I say, so where does your spouse live? my spouse lives in California. Well, the officer looks at their forms and they're like, this says New York. You say California. So then in their head, they're going to ask the next question is, where did your spouse live before that? And then you say, your spouse says New York. They lived in New York. They moved to California. They didn't, we weren't able to update the forms. And that's completely fine. Again, it just depends on what stage you are in, determines who you change your address with. So just keep that in mind. And it also determines if you're even able to reopen the forms and change it. So if your case has moved from the National Visa Center to the embassy, you may not be able to update your DS-260, but your spouse at the interview is able to update it with your current address. So do not freak out too much. US National Visa Center most of the time does not send you physical mail. You should be put in your email. Your spouse should be put in their email, and those emails will be getting the updates, including the interview notice. So just keep that in mind as well, is that you want to make sure that if you're able to, that you're updating it at every single stage of your case, so that you, again, do not miss any notice, do not miss anything that could lead to your case being delayed or worse, denied. Okay, so if you have any questions, as always, go ahead and put them in the comments. I hope this answers all your questions when it comes to this topic. I'm just going to go quickly and make sure that I have not missed any of the questions on this topic, because, like I said, I got a lot of questions on this. So let's just make sure. So let me read this question. I changed my address on USCIS and got an email saying it was submitted, and it gives me a confirmation number. It has been a month and I still haven't received a letter in the mail or an email saying whether it was accepted or not. What should I do? Well, so if you go on my YouTube page, you'll see all these questions that people ask about, specifically under the changing, how to change your address video. And I already addressed them there, but I also want to address them in this video just in case you have a question and you don't have time to go on the YouTube page and scroll through. Okay. So because this person already changed their address, they got confirmation that they have submitted um, the actual change of address form. They are good. Okay. Sometimes, well, right now, it's taking longer than usual to get the final confirmation that the update has taken place. However, not getting the confirmation does not mean that your address wasn't changed. If your address doesn't get changed in time, or if you get a letter and you miss it, that becomes USCIS's fault if it was sent after after you change your address. Okay, so you have proof that you changed your address and when you change your address because of that confirmation email. So do not freak out if it's been a month and you have not received your the actual confirmation saying that your address has been updated. It does not mean that your address won't be updated. It just means it's taking them longer than usual to get that done. Okay, so hold on to your confirmation email. Do not delete it, because you do not that's your proof that you actually went ahead and changed your address. Okay, so it is good to keep that in mind. Do not, do not, do not delete the email. Now, the next question is, okay. So my son filed I-130 for me and my husband using our current address. At the time of filing, we will be moving to a new address in July 2022. Does my son have to file a change of address for us, the beneficiaries of the I-130? I love this question because it is specifically talking about someone that is outside of the US. Excuse me. This is specifically a question from someone that's outside of the US that has a US citizen child that's filing for them, and they want to know if the beneficiary of an I-130 has to change their address. Okay. Um, if you go on the USCIS website, right? If you go on the USCIS website and you go to change the address, you can go ahead and change the address for the petitioner. So that's the person that's actually filing the form. That's the person that's actually um, going to get um, notifications on the form. So the beneficiary does not, can, the beneficiary does not actually get to update their address because there's no mail coming to you. The beneficiary does not start filling out forms as the applicant until the case gets to USC, gets to National Visa Center. So the form is specifically for the petitioner. Okay. So the petitioner is the one that gets the updates, and the petitioner is the one that has to update their address so that one, the right service center is handling the case, and two, they don't miss any mail from USCIS. However, the beneficiary that's outside of the US does not have to update their address when they move. It's just when they get to the DS 260 with the National Visa Center, that's when they put in their current address and of course their previous address, because they asked for your address since you were 16. So you will still put in your previous address and your current address on that DS260, but can you go on the USCIS website as the beneficiary and update your address? The answer is no, unless you are filling out a specific form and you are the petitioner. So I will give you an example. If you are married to a US citizen, you can, and you are in the US, right? You're married to a US citizen, you're in the US, you're filing your green card application, your spouse is filing an I-130 for you, they are the petitioner for that. You, the non US citizen, is filing the green card application. You, the non-US citizen, can go ahead and update your address because for that green card application, you are the applicant. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It just depends on who the petitioner or applicant is. The beneficiaries on a specific form are not able to update their address until they start on the either the green card application in the US or the visa application with the National Visa Center. Okay, so I just wanted to answer that question because I think a lot of people actually had that specific question. Now, the next question is: I have a pending I-130 case. I'm planning to move to another state. Is the change of address going to delay the processing time? So this is one of the biggest questions that I get is, will changing my address actually change how fast my case will be approved? Well, the thing to keep in mind is when you file your application, there's no guarantee that a specific service center will have your case. Okay. So even if you move to another state, it might still be the same service center that's handling the case from those two states. And if it's the same service center, then there will be no change in the processing time. Now, you can always look on the processing time for each service center on the USCIS website just to see what what each service center is doing, with the caveat that you will not know. You really have no control of which service center is going to handle your case because depending on let's say the California Service Center has too many cases and they're not able to handle all of them, your case may be routed to the Texas Service Center or routed to a different service center. So just keep in mind that you have no way of predicting um, which service center will actually have your case. I have cases in Massachusetts that are being processed at the California Service Center. Some are being processed in the Texas Service Center. So it's not really something you can control, but you can at least go on the USCIS website and look at the processing time for each service center and just see worst case scenario if they move it to a service center that is not already in, that has a longer processing time, what that would look like. But just know, just because you live in California does not mean that the California Service Center is going to be the one processing your case. Just keep that in mind as you're going through this process. It is one of those little things with immigration that people have issue with. But again, the main thing to keep in mind is you have to update your address, because if you do not move, if you move and do not update your address, you're not going to get the notification that it was, that your service center was changed, right? You're not going to get those notifications. So make sure you go ahead and change your address, and make sure, as always, that if you are really worried about the service center changing, you can wait until it's approved by looking at the processing time, seeing how long it's supposed to take, and see if you're within that processing time. But can you control which service center actually processes your case? You can't. Um, it's just randomly chosen with their system. So just know it's something to just keep in mind. Okay. And then another great question: do I have to mail the change of address? So, if you go on the USCIS website and you print out the AR11, which is the change of address form, and you fill it out, right? Then yes, you can mail that into USCIS, which is not really the best way, in my opinion, to change your address, because you can do it right on the website without filling out, printing out any forms. You can, once you fill it out and submit it, you can download a copy just for your records, right? You can download a copy for your records, but you don't have to then also mail it to USCIS. So once you fill it out online and you submit it, you get a confirmation. You are allowed to print a copy for your records, but you don't have to mail that copy to USCIS. When it comes to change of address, I tell people to just do it online because it is faster and you get your confirmation right away versus mailing it in. Um, you're just taking a risk that it might not get to the file fast enough for them to, you know, send the notice to the right address. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that. Okay. And then someone is asking if you have lost your receipt notice, so the notice that USCIS sends you to let you know that they have received your application, can you still do a change of address? The answer is yes. So if you do not have your receipt number because you lost your receipt notice, you can do one of two things. If you're the petitioner or the applicant, you can call the USCIS 800 number. And once you get on the phone with a representative, you can identify yourself, right? They will verify your identity by asking you certain questions, and they will check to see if there is an application pending under your name. And if there is, they will do a further verification to make sure that you are the petitioner. And once they have verified your identity, they can give you the receipt number. So if you have lost your receipt number and you're not sure you're not sure what it is, what you can do is call the 800 number. And I have done this for several people because especially when you've had like an I-130 pending for years. Let's say you're filing for a sibling or a child that's over 21. You've moved a couple times. You don't know where the receipt went. Okay, I've had this happen, so just know that happens. I've had people come to me, they want to know the status of their case, what's going on with their case that they filed for their child, but they don't have the receipt number. So we had to call USCIS with the client there and get all the receipt number and all of that so that we can actually go ahead and do a service request and find out what the status of the case is. So it's really important that you keep all your notices from USCIS or from the National Visa Center. Keep them in a secure place like you do all your other important documents. But if you do lose it and you're just looking for your receipt number, there is a way to get it. Do not freak out too much. You can always get your receipt number as the petitioner by calling USCIS. Now, if you're the beneficiary, unfortunately, you won't be able to get the information because it is only the petitioner that can access the form that they file. Okay, so if let's say your parent filed an I-130 for you and you want to check the status, you have to have your parent there to check the status of the I-130. Now, if you're already at the green card stage, you become the applicant. So you can actually go ahead and get the information for the green card application, but not the I-130. So just keep that in mind when you're calling USCIS and making sure that if you are not the petitioner, that you have the petitioner there with you and they are answering the questions that will be asked. Okay, so that is all the questions. Some of the questions overlap, so I kind of combine them. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Even if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead, put them in the comments. I will go back and respond to you. And if I get enough comments, I'll probably do a video responding to them. So feel free to do that. Thank you so much for joining me, taking the time to watch this video. And remember, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this with them. And if you are listening in a place where you can subscribe, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you do not miss any of my uploads. And as always, if you have any questions or want to schedule a private consultation with me, you can do that by contacting me, and all my contact information will be in the description to this video. And once again, I am Lilian Chukura. I am the owner of Lily Legal, where we do immigration law and we do it well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week, Friday, for more immigration chat. Bye for now.